Hi, my friends. Hope you are in good state, and we'll try together today to continue our study, our discussion on how to solve a question in biology. Till now, we saw some verbs as described, if you remember. Okay, we had this topic, this document, this experiment, and we described it. We put macrophage, okay, from the beginning till the end. The spleen of the mouse is removed, we obtain these cells, macrophages and lymphocytes. We separate the cells in 3 containers, only macrophages here, macrophages and lymphocytes in the second, and lymphocytes in the third. We added to them SRBC, sheep red blood cells, and we keep them for 4 days as culture. And at the end, we do not obtain antibodies in the first. In the second, we obtain SRBC antibodies, and in the third, no antibodies are obtained. So it was the description. In reality, once you describe, you must not understand the whole document. You have to describe it only as you see it. The second question was analyze. Okay, analyze it is to know the variable, what you did and the result. Scientifically speaking, as I said before, variable is the factor that changed between two given experiments. So look to this, the same document. So we will start, we are looking first, we will look first to the result and what we did. This result is a result of what we put together, what we did before. So in the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC. We do not obtain antibodies. On the other hand, or Y, it is a connector. If we add macrophages to the lymphocytes to the macrophages, okay, or in the other hand, if we put macrophages and lymphocytes with SRBC, we obtain anti-SRBC antibodies. Finally, if lymphocytes alone are put with SRBC, okay, no antibodies are obtained. So as you see what I did, what I put together, okay, and what I obtained. And if you remember, two shapes, two formats of the analysis is acceptable or are acceptable. Sorry. In the first container we put and the result. In the second we put and the result. In the third we put and the result. Taban, it is a rapid revision. If you want to use the connectors, you can write all these, okay, in a text using what only connectors, as this connector, okay. In the other hand, it is a connector, okay, and then while it is a connector, okay, etc. Now we arrive to the verb interpret. Look to this, interpret. The definition of the verb interpret is this one. Interpret equals, and look carefully please, equals analyze plus so. And so, I mean you have to put a significance. Okay, so what is interpret? It says, once I ask you to interpret an experiment, etc., you have to mention in your answer the analysis, what you did, what you obtained, and for each what you did and what you obtained, you have to add so, or this indicates that, this signifies that, this implies that, and you have to write a significance. A significance for the result. I will give you an example. Okay. What if I ask you in Arabic بالهلالين فتحية لم تدرس درسها فاصلي لقد رسبت في الامتحان. What is this? Is it an analysis or an interpretation? فتحية لم تدرس درسها لقد رسبت في الامتحان. Is this what? It is a variable and the result, it's an analysis. Very good. فتحية did not study, comma, She failed. She did not pass her exam result. So it is an analysis. What if I want to transform this analysis into interpretation? It says, can I solve? Yes, تفضلي. فتحية لم تدرس درسها فاصلي لقد رسبت في الامتحان. إذن حتى ننجح يجب أن ندرس. يا عمي يا عمي شو هالروعة، شو هالتلاميذ هيدول. Very excellent. Excellent. Tu es une excellente élève. So, look to this. If I say for you, Fathiya did not study, comma, she failed. Now it is an. So if you want now to transform this analysis into interpretation, you have to put what? So, or this indicates that. Yani a significance for the result. So, or this indicates that to succeed, to pass our exam, we should study. No. This is the main difference between interpret and analyze. Good. Now let us continue. I will give you the same document as before. Given the following document representing Mosier experiment. This is the document. The same experiment يا حبي. So when I give you the same experiment, I change the question. In this case, you will clearly understand the difference by writing different answers for the same document. So the question is now interpret this experiment. Interpret. Okay, first of all, I have to remember what is interpret. TSTS. Okay, interpret is analyze plus so. Pay attention. Analyze plus so. Yani variable plus result plus so. Then variable plus result plus so. بعدين variable plus result plus so. You have to put between them connectors. Connectors in the form of a text. Or if you do not like to write as a text, you have to take each experiment and to put your answer. I will give you how. Suppose I have this question in face of me. Interpret this experiment. Okay. In the first container, like this. In the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC, comma. There are no antibodies. So if I stop here, I am making analysis and not interpretation. With teacher, what he did, he said for us. So interpret, you have to add so or significance or this is like that. In the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC, comma, we did not obtain antibodies. This indicates that. Also, what? So it is not good to go to swim today because it is cold. يا حبيبي يا حبيبي مرة صوم يا حبيبي مرة significance يا بابا. The significance must be at least logical significance يا بابا. Put any logical significance يا ماما. Any logical significance يا بابا يا جدو. طيب how, mister? Look what? If you have this container and you put inside it macrophages and SRBC and you did not obtain antibodies, what can you understand from this result? What can you understand from this experiment? Mister, I can understand that simply macrophages along with SRBC are not able to produce antibodies. لك يسلم لي هالدم، لك يسلم لي هالخلقة. That's it. That's it. Do not be afraid. Do not compose it. Do not fabricate it. ما تصنعها يا خيي دغري. Tell it. Write it. Say it. Directly. And it does not require intelligence to write the significance. So I will repeat now, officially. In the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC. There are no antibodies. This indicates that or so macrophages alone with SRBC cannot produce antibodies. While on the other hand, in the second container, if we add lymphocytes to the macrophages with SRBC, okay, we obtain anti-SRBC antibodies. So, macrophages and lymphocytes with SRBC are able to produce antibodies. Finally, if lymphocytes alone are put with SRBC, we do not obtain antibodies. So, or this indicates that lymphocytes alone with SRBC are not able to produce antibodies. And this is the complete and perfect answer. Look to this. I will show you the answer. You can write the answer. Look to me, my friends. Take your time. You can push pause and write this answer on your copybook. And in a few days, I will tell you that you have to start to write exactly what passed on the screen. Okay? So you have to have on your hand what a copybook for biology. Look my أحبائي, we have to study, we have to progress, we have to succeed. Have. Now, so look to the answer. In the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC. There are no antibodies. Analysis. So, macrophages alone in the presence of SRBC cannot produce antibodies. So, I am taking here each experiment apart. I am not making a text with connectors. And as I said before, okay, you can use each experiment apart, and or what? If you want to write a text, you have to put connectors. But okay, it is good. It's better to write as a text with connectors. Okay, it's good. It's better for you. We will practice both. We will practice both types. In the second container, we put macrophages and lymphocytes with SRBC. There are anti-SRBC antibodies. So macrophages and lymphocytes together in the presence of SRBC can produce antibodies. In the third container, we put lymphocytes and SRBC. There are no antibodies, so lymphocytes alone in the presence of SRBC cannot produce antibodies. So I am writing what I did, what I obtained, and what I understood from each result. Interpret is analyze plus so. So significant. Interpret. It is what analyze plus so. It means when you make analysis, when you write your variable and your result, add what you understood, what you understand from this experiment. Okay, now look to these two answers. The first one is the one, okay, I put first on the screen. And the second, if I want to use connectors, please friends, I repeat, please ya hubbi, write and study. Write as if you are in the class. I think you will do it. There's another one. Now, look, if I want to write as in the form of a text with connectors, same content, but I will put between each experiment and the next experiment, the adjacent experiment, I will put what? A connector. In a container, we put macrophages and SRBC. There are no antibodies, so macrophages alone in the presence of SRBC cannot produce antibodies. Okay, now same thing for the first one. You can write in the first container, why not? In the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC. There are no antibodies, so macrophages alone in the presence of SRBC cannot produce antibodies. In other hand, it is a connector. If lymphocytes also are added to the culture, and there are macrophage or lymphocytes, anti-SRBC antibodies will be obtained. So macrophage and lymphocytes together in the presence of SRBC can produce antibodies. While, furthermore, finally, it is a connector also. If only lymphocytes were added to SRBC, no antibodies will be obtained. So lymphocytes alone in the presence of SRBC cannot produce antibodies. It is very easy, Allah. Nothing is hard to understand. Okay? The most important is to assess, to look to this video, to look to these answers, to read them carefully. Take your time, and ask your questions. I am every day, and every time at your service. Good. So, stairs, يعني it is not convenient in an evaluation, in a control, in a test, to write the two questions. It is not acceptable to give you an experiment and to give the first question, analyze this experiment, and the second question, interpret this experiment. Why? Why it's not good for the teacher to give you an experiment and to ask you the first question, make necessary analysis for this experiment or analyze this experiment, and part B, interpret this experiment. Why? Very good. So you start to criticize. بلشوا تعملوا نقد, to criticize the question. Because if I ask after analyze, I ask interpret, it is a repetition. Because in the interpretation, analysis exists in the interpretation. So, you can only ask, analyze this experiment, or only you can ask what interpret the experiment. Not both. Good. Now we pass to the next verb. Next verb that is very good. What can you deduce from this experiment? Look to the verbs. Look to the verbs again. We had these verbs. The first one was describe. The second, analyze. The third, interpret. And we achieved, we finished them. Now we have to explain how can we solve the question if it contains the verb deduce, or if it contains the verb conclude or draw out. Okay, now let us go to the verb deduce first. What about deduce? What is the definition of this verb? Deduce. Okay. Okay, here I am presenting for you the answer for analysis and the answer for interpretation, so that you can clearly see that they are both identical, but interpretation contains, okay, in addition of the analysis, it contains this so, and this so, the significance. Hope it is clear for you. The difference between analyze or the analysis of an experiment and the interpretation of the experiment. Okay, I am leaving sometimes the screen like this to give you more time, or you can push the pause in order to stop the screen and the video and to take your time. Good. Now we pass, as I said, to the verb deduce. Deduce is, look to this, it is analyze plus than, generalization, than. So deduce is what? Analyze is to write the analysis. At the end, you write than, the generalization. Give me more time to explain this, please. Deduce, the shape or the format of the answer of the solution on the verb deduce is like this. First, you write the analysis in a paragraph. Then, below this and below it, مش with it, within it. If you remember, the so or the indication, the significance was inside the answer. We wrote variable, result, and so. Variable, result, so. Variable, result, so in interpretation. But to deduce something is to write the analysis, variable, result, variable, result, variable, result, and at the end, you write this word, then, and you write a generalization, a small text. and between us ما تخلوا حدا يسمعنا between us, and then you will write the source مش الصوت, what you wrote, what you can write in the indications if you are interpreting the experiment. The summation of the source. It says يعني هون بالذان دغري I will write in then macrophages along with SRBC cannot produce antibodies. Also, macrophages, lymphocytes alone with SRBC can produce antibodies, while macrophages and lymphocytes together with SRBC can produce antibodies. Very good. That's it. That is it. So only the shape, the format of the answer between interpret and deduce, it is the shape. So in interpret, you put the indication after each result. While in deduce, when you want to deduce something, you write the analyze alone above first, then below it, you write a small text after this word, then you will write then and the significance of each experiment you analyze. In order to understand very well, I will give you the same document. And what? And I will ask to deduce something. What can you deduce from the experiment? Look to this, the same experiment, given the following document representing Mosier experiment, and what? And the question is, look to this question. What can you deduce now? What can you deduce from this experiment? What can you deduce from this? مش analyze this experiment, ولا interpret this experiment. What can you deduce from this experiment? Good. The first idea, as I said before, is to put in your mind what is the meaning of deduce, what is the format of deduce, what is the shape of the answer once I ask you to deduce. It says, the teacher said to us, we have first to make analysis, then below it, then and a conclusion, yes, or a generalization. So let us first start by analyzing the same analysis. I am not discovering the hot water, because hot water between us was discovered by the Arabian. بلا ما احكي كثير هلا احسن ما تطلع معي. So I am putting the analysis in the first container. We put macrophages and SRBC. There are no antibodies. In the second container, we put macrophages and lymphocytes with SRBC. There are anti-SRBC antibodies. In the third container, we put lymphocytes and SRBC. There are no antibodies. Or you can write in the form of a text with connectors. Yani in the first container, we put macrophages and SRBC. There are no antibodies. While if we add lymphocytes to the first container, we obtain anti-SRBC antibodies. Finally, in the third container, we put lymphocytes and SRBC alone. We do not obtain antibodies. So as you want. Both are acceptable, as I said before. But then what? This is the analysis. It says, but you asked us to deduce. I have to write down. Okay, I have to write down, and then the macrophages along with SRBC cannot produce antibodies. Also, the lymphocytes along with SRBC cannot produce antibodies, but lymphocytes and macrophages together with SRBC can produce antibodies. You can. This is the generalization you can say. But look to me, please. If your language can help you, it is better to write something else. Something else. I mean, what something else? بكل بساطة. And instead of writing 3-4 lines, instead of writing the macrophages alone with SRBC cannot produce antibodies, and lymphocytes alone with SRBC cannot produce antibodies, but macrophages and lymphocytes together with SRBC can produce antibodies. And instead of writing all this, you can write, to produce anti-SRBC antibodies, we must put together macrophages and lymphocytes with SRBC. That's it. The same idea. I swear it's the same idea, but with better language. With better language. Look to this. Then, to produce antibodies, we should put macrophages and lymphocytes together with SRBC. Isn't it beautiful? That's it. So if you want to reduce يا غالي ويا غالي يا أحبائي يا أعزاء على قلبي, if you want to deduce, first put the analysis, then put the generalization in the form of then. Then, to produce antibodies, anti-SRBC antibodies or antibodies, we should put macrophages and lymphocytes together with the SRBC. This is what we understood from all these three experiments. This is what we name generalization. Good. Now what? I hope it is understandable for you. Okay. So please, it is very easy. It is the most important is to put in your mind. Okay, what is the meaning of deduce? Okay, deduce is analyze and below it then, not انتهى. What is the meaning? How to interpret? Instead to analyze the plus, so what is analysis? Variable plus result. And describe is to write from the beginning till the end. Good. What now? Now I will pass for the last question. That is conclude. Look to this, please. Conclude. The verb conclude. Okay. Conclude or draw out. Yani we can ask you, what can you conclude from this experiment? Or we can ask you, what can you draw out from this experiment? Conclude or draw out. It is the same. Conclude or draw out. It is very extremely easy. It is only to write the then. Please do not make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, I will give you a kaki without symptom. Conclude or draw out. Only you will have to write that. It says, can you explain more? Oh, yes, of course, why not? Look to this. The same document. The same document. Look to this document. And the question is, what can you conclude or what can you draw out from this experiment? You. There. Me, it says, yes, you. Give me the correct answer for this question. يا دلي يا أستاذ، أنا بلشت أرجف من الخوف وعم بعرق. يا أخي لا تخاف ولا تعرف. What can you conclude from this experiment, or what can you draw out from this experiment? Okay, Stans, you told us that and the verb conclude or draw out is to write only the then. طيب. If you ask me, what can you conclude or draw out? I will write, I can conclude, or then, or I can draw out, to produce very good. To produce antibodies, we should put macrophages and lymphocytes with SRBC. No. هل حجمه then we can conclude, draw out that to produce antibodies we should put macrophages and lymphocytes together with the SRBC. It is the format, it is the shape of the answer that is very important in biology. The shape. That's it. So if I ask you, what can you conclude? Look to me. Yes, it's very easy. I swear, but sometimes and often, the students make mistakes. So, many times I ask the student, what can you conclude? They start to analyze. Like, ya Baba, hey, I am asking you, what can you conclude only? We can conclude that. It is the then, only the then. Not more than this. not more than this. So, now, please pay attention. I will ask you a question. Suppose we have teacher 1 that write on his test, okay, his exam for the students. What can you conclude from this experiment? What can you conclude from this experiment? And okay, the other teacher, what can you draw out? Okay, the same answer is طيب تمام تمام. طيب now suppose if the first teacher in part A ask the students analyze this experiment, and in part B, what can you conclude from this experiment? The second teacher, the first one, شو كتب part A, analyze this experiment, to part B, what can you conclude from this experiment? ثاني teacher كتب part A, what can you deduce from this experiment? In the answers, what about the answers on these questions? Very good. For the first teacher, he asked to analyze, and in the part B, what can you conclude? بيكتب analysis, والpart B بيكتب الثاني only. We can conclude that. بينما عند second teacher, لما سألهم what can you deduce from this experiment, the student for the same question must write the analysis and the conclusion, the ذان يعني. فإذا الأستاذ الثاني سؤاله ما بدي أقول أصعب في الشيء اسمه صعب، بس إنه ينتبه التلميذ أكثر، because يا إما you will take the note you will not or not. While for the first teacher, the note, the grade is divided on parts A and B. يعني على البارت B A إذا عمل analysis correct analysis راح ياخذ النوت. على البارت B إذا عمل conclusion صح بياخذ النوت، وإذا غلط عمل mistake in one of them, okay, مش all the whole note will be eliminated. لا. بينما if I ask you what can you deduce, you must write the analysis and the then in a correct way. Hope you understand what I told you. Hope you understand what I told you. كمان, for example, it is not acceptable for the teacher to write this. Part A, analyze this experiment. Part B, what can you deduce from this experiment? لا يا أستاذ أنه عمل analysis بالpart A. When you ask him to make the deduction, what can you do? Yeah, there is a repetition here, because in my answer in deduce, I have to write again the analysis. Or you can write, you cannot write part A, analyze this experiment, and part B, interpret this experiment. The same idea. So if you ask analyze in the first part, you must write in the second part what can you draw out or what can you conclude, and not what can you deduce. Really, I hope you start to understand this, and because once you can understand all this, yani, you are controlling solving questions. You are mastering solving questions in biology. That's all for active or action verbs. Hope to see you soon. May God protect you and your family. May God protect South Lebanon. May God protect Lebanon. And I am waiting for your questions anytime. See you.